me, it doesn't work.
Can I ask you another question that's just bothering me a bit? It's what's bothering Marinos.
Yes.
You know, we read earlier that when I see these raisins in the roof, it says they're incomplete. It says, but the family can eat from this, the sons and so forth. They can eat from.
You're mixing things up. No, it didn't talk about the family in regards to that. No, he talked about the family in regards to he had ta'ini.
Yeah.
He brought it to the chutzner,
Right.
and he wanted to make jam out of it.
Right.
That's a Mishnah in Meiser's where it says, even though it came into the chutzner, which should have made it chayav and Meiser, it's not, because since it's not nigmar malacha.
Oh, I see. Right. It's on its way to being complete. It's not complete right now.
So that's where you learned another ingredient in Meiser, that even though the chutzner is very important, Re'iyas B'nei Abayis is important to making chayav and Meiser, but only if it's a finished product.
Okay.
If it comes in as an unfinished product, then it's still pater and Meiser till that stage is accomplished.
Because Rabbi Nachman says it's traditional in our hands that incomplete food is Meiser taken food.
In regards to the other question, can Shabbos do more than the chutzner? The chutzner will not take an unfinished food and make it chayav and meiser, but maybe Shabbos can do that. Shabbos is stronger than the chutzner, so to speak.
Right.
Okay, so that's a new question. Can Shabbos, because of the pasuk in Yeshaya, or whatever the reason will be, has a stronger strength of being koveya for meiser than the chutzner itself? Because the chutzner can only work out if it's a finished product. Maybe Shabbos can even work on a food to make it chayav and meiser, even if it's an unfinished product.
So
that was the question that Rava wanted to analyze, and what Nachman said, I believe it does.
It's not a contradiction, it's just that one seems...
No, that was part of Rava's question. That's why he introduced the question with these two Mishnayos and Maisros. One showing you that Shabbos has a power to be koveya for Meiser if it's a finished product. Chutzner cannot be koveya for Meiser if it's an unfinished product. But maybe, even though we don't have a textual basis for it yet, but maybe since in logic there would be a stronger power of Shabbos than the Chutzner, because it has a pasuk in Chumash, actually in Yeshaya, telling you that it's a proper achila that's very chashuv. So maybe just like that pasuk tells you that the Shabbos is very chashuv, maybe it also tells you it's more chashuv than the chutzner. It can even make something chayav and meiser, even if it's an unfinished product.
Snacking on Shabbos.
So that was Rava's question, and now Rav Nachman gave an answer that yes, that is true. That is really the truth of the matter. That since it's a special mitzvah of eating on Shabbos, so therefore it makes it chayav and meiser, even if it's not a finished product.
Okay, that's good.
So makes it chayav, since it's a special mitzvah for eating on Shabbos, therefore makes it chayav.
That's what Rava was asking, and that's where Rav Nachman answered him. Yes, it does, because Shabbos has a special power, namely the achila is so chashuv. Eating something on Shabbos is such an important thing, such a chashuv achila, that even just designating it for that achila makes it chayav and meiser. Okay, that's what Rav Nachman said, and Marzutra Breda Rav Nachman said, I think I even have a Mishnah in Beitsa that tells us the same thing, right? Which would be much stronger if you have a Mishnah to back you up. Okay? So we're on Daf Lamed Hey Amud Aleph and Beitsa. It's a continuation of the sugya in the previous page, which was started to ask already the question about whether Shabbos can make something chayav and meiser even if it's an unfinished product, because we know that a chutzner cannot do that. The chutzner is limited, but maybe Shabbos is unlimited because of the pasuk in Yeshaya. It's very important eating, and it's even more important than the chutzner. So Rav Nachman says it is, and then you have Marzutra Breda Rav Nachman seemingly Rav Nachman's son is coming to defend his father and say, it's not just my father saying so from his own conjecture, but it's even famous pasuk in Mishnah in Beitsa, famous Mishnah in Beitsa. Okay, so that becomes a tug of war. How to explain our Mishnah in Beitsa. So we have Marzut Reda Rav Nachman said it's the Shabbos element in our Mishnah, because he's saying he wants to eat it on Shabbos. That's enough to make it Chayiv HaMaiser, whereas the other, what we were calling the antagonist who asked the question on Marzutra, says it's not necessarily that way. It's not necessarily the Shabbos that's making it Chayiv HaMaiser. It might just be the Dibur. And that's what the Gemora is now discussing. Does that make sense to say it was the Dibur?
That's why I was just asking, right? Does it make sense?
Pues manda, pues cómo va eso.
You take foreign coins, I have like American coins here, like a quarter. You want a quarter? לא יכול להשתמש? זה מה שיש לי עכשיו, רק מטבעות של אמריקה, של מדינות אחרות.
Should I give something? I have something.
If you want to give for yourself.
Yeah.
Call to Tatzlach. תודה רבה. I think he speaks English, I don't know. It's just because maybe his parents were English speakers, I don't know exactly, but not a fluent English speaker, that's for sure. Alright, so why don't we go from the top again, keeping in mind that even though there's many lines up until, as we said, Misnisin Nami, where it's already, that's where the tide shifts and it becomes the answer of this person who's saying Dibur. He's now trying to answer. But up until there, it's a question on him, which Rashi elaborates on. Shall we start from there? Or shall we start from further on? Can't hear you. What?
Let's start from there.
Okay. Yeah, just let's say those three words and what they mean.
So, it's the returning, the person who returns the extra food or the leftovers.
The extra food can be put back.
Shmi Ramin Leila Rabbi Eliezer, and we heard Rabbi Eliezer say, Amara Ko Michi, the Utro Achazer,
The Maestro.
Achazer Lo Kalda. We heard Rabbi Eliezer say, and he said that here, all the extras that are returned are not Chayiv Masa. It's an honor.
I'm sorry.
I thought you were going to read out.
Okay.
The time we learned in Yeshiva in Maseret.
Okay.
הנוטל זיתי מן המעתן, טובל אחד ואחד, and we took these olives from a container and we salted them, covered them in salt one by one, אם טובל ומעתן לפניו, and if we covered them in salt and put them in front of us, Sarah, Chayev. This is some say not choosing in Chayev.
My mother.
Is it an emergency? I can't see.
No share now.
Is it becoming clearer, or does it sound to me clear?
No, I don't care. The person who takes, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the person who takes zaytim from this container and he returns them is not chayav myself. If he takes more than two, he takes two or more thing, and he puts it in front of him on the table, then he's chayav myself, right? So one by one, and he salts them, he's not chayav. He takes 10 of them this time. And I think salting makes it a meal, right?
Salting them makes them a meal. It's possible. I mean, if he salts one at a time, it's not a meal.
I think it's going to be two or more, right?
And he gathers them up. And that makes them what we call a meal.
Okay. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, מן המעתן הטהור החי, מן המעתן המרי פורטו. So he takes from a container that's pure, then he's kind of just fed myself. And if it's a Tsama container, he doesn't take it. לפני שהוא מחזור את notar, the counter effect that he can return the excess. You want a cup of coffee?
I'm fine. Thank you. Okay.
I think I'm going to commission. Commission?
Yeah. Heat knocks you out. The heat knocks you out.
What that's like 38 ago.
38?
And you just put it in here?
Yeah.
In the top?
Okay. Do you guys have this Gemora clear?
Yeah.
Okay, Surely, explain it to me.
So we started with the question was that anything that the person has spoken about before about Tevel and about Shabbos, if he is over any transgressed it, it's fixed, right?
It's a side issue. That's not the main point.
The main point is saying, can a dibur work for not taking place? It doesn't work.
Why would you think it does?
So what, because of the Mishnah that we brought,
What Mishnah?
Moses,
No. In Beitsa.
Beitsa, we spoke about the Ta'anim, right?
Nope. That was also Meiser.
When it takes others from the container.
Hello.
What?
I asked you, why would you think Dibur does make it kavua with a Meiser? I didn't get a good answer from you yet.
Because of Shabbos.
Where do we see it possibly that just Dibur is enough?
What? Mishnah in considering the case of the Tsama girl and the Torah.
What Masechta are we learning?
Beitsa.
So why would we get into a whole discussion about Meiser and jars and all these other things? Why are we getting into this whole discussion? How did we get into that from Masechtas Beitsa? Seems like we went very far afield. Do you know how we got into this in the first place?
Can you take Meiser from the Dom Shalom after? Does it work? Dom Shalom after, when it's designated.
We're not talking about can it work to take it from, but I asked you a simple question. How did this whole thing start? How did we get into this whole discussion?
The discussion of Ma'azutra and Rava.
What was that discussion?
Rava's asked. Can Shabbos be to something which is a Shabbat or Shabbat?
What does it mean, Kovea it?
Fixes it.
What does that mean?
It means that this food is not, it's fixed for Shabbos.
Where else do we see food becoming kavua for Meiser?
Shabbos.
Where do we see that?
From the Pasuk.
Pasuk just talks about it being an onik, doesn't talk about Meiser.
We have a Hekesh from Shabbos from Chatzit. From the Mishnah in our Mishnah.
Our Mishnah. Now getting close. What was
Maybe
it saying in
it
our
is
Mishnah? Okay. And what does it say there?
Person, he says a person stands on his muktzah, right? Which means he designated.
What is he designated as?
Designated as Meiser.
Does it talk about Meiser in our Mishnah? Where do you see it mentioned Meiser? What does he actually say?
This meeting has mana.
What does Hasmana mean?
He's designating for Shabbos.
For Shabbos. Okay. He says, I want to eat from here tomorrow. So what does that help? What does Hasmana help for?
For Shabbos.
What does Hasmana do then?
Makes it fit for Shabbos.
Instead of being
Muktzah.
muksa. Why would we have, if he's talking about food, why would it be muksa in the first place? Why would food be muksa?
This is in because of progress, it's not complete.
Not complete. Somewhat in the middle of being prepared. And without him saying something, it would be considered muksa. That's what it says in the Mishnah, Omid ala muksa. Standing over muksa, something that should be considered muksa. And now he says he wants to eat it the next day. Does that help him? Can he eat it the next day?
No.
That's not true. He can eat it the next day. Read the Mishnah.
מכאן אני אוכל מחר.
Okay, that's what he has to say to do his hazmana. But once he does his hazmana, whatever it is, can he eat it the next day?
Yes.
Now you said before he can't. Now can you bring me a proof one way or the other?
Where does it say you can?
Where does it say he can? That's what he wants to do. Who says it works?
It says it works.
He doesn't exactly say it, but he says if you want to eat this, this is what you have to say. It sounds like that it does work.
Yes.
But does it work every Shabbos?
No.
What Shabbos will it work? What Shabbos won't it work? No, I'm not talking about the way he says his hazmana. That's a question of how he does his hazmana. I'm asking about sometimes on a certain type of a Shabbos, what he just said will work. He will be able to eat it the next day based on that hazmana. Sometimes he won't. What does this Mishnah say? This speaking about what kind of a Shabbos? Shvi'is. And why does it stipulate that we're talking about Shvi'is? Why should we only say it works during Shemitah? And therefore, with the Hazmana, which took care of the problem of Meiser, now it's not Meiser, no. Suck me into that one. The Hazmana takes care of what? Muktzah. So we're saying, since the Hazmana took care of Muktzah, there's no problem with Muktzah here, right?
Yeah.
And because it's Shemitah, there's also no problem of Meiser. So, since it's Shemitah, there's no problem with Meiser, and since he made a Hazmana, there's no problem with Muktzah. So that's why it says, this will work for him to be able to eat the next day, but only what? Only on what kind of a Shabbos? Shvi'is. Shabbos is during the Shemitah year. Okay?
Yes.
Now what would have happened if it wouldn't have been a Shemitah year? And what would have made it Chayiv and Meiser? That's the question. That's the question. What are the two options? What else could it be that's making this Chayiv and Meiser?
Shabbos? If he dibur, he says.
Dibur. What is his dibur that he's saying?
I'm going to eat these for.
I'm going to eat this. His dibur is being koveya it by making it. That's what he's going to eat. Okay.
Yes.
So, do you know whether it's because of Shabbos or because of dibur? Do you have a way of proving one way or the other? What?
If not, the only reason why the Chayiv and Shvis because of Muktzah.
You're what? What?
There's no Meiser but Shvis.
So therefore, the only reason you just said the only reason what?
It'd be Chayiv.
Chayiv what?
If it didn't designate it.
No, if you didn't designate it, then it's muktzah. That's simple. It's muktzah. It says it's muktzah. You're standing over muktzah. You have to designate it to take off the muktzah. That's what we're saying. Hazmana takes off muktzah. But that's a separate issue. The muktzah is a separate issue. We're not trying to focus on the meiser. Again, in this Mishnah,
Yes.
in Beitsa, if he does his hazmana properly, whatever that it takes, can he eat it the next day?
Yes.
Well, it depends. What?
If it's, what do you mean depends?
Because it says in the Mishnah only b'shvis.
Schwitzer,
But the other years it wouldn't work.
yes.
You know what I mean now when I say it depends?
Yeah, only Schwitzer works.
Only in Shemitah it works. Only in Shvis it works. Why?
It's the mice. It means,
So the only thing I had to take care of was the muksa, and the Hazmana takes care of the muksa. We know that.
yes.
But if it would be in a different year, just taking care of the muksa is not enough. Because once I take care of the muksa, I still have the problem that it's chayiv and meiser. And I can't take meiser on Shabbos, so I'm not allowed to eat it.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a diuk in the Mishnah that if it wouldn't have been the Shemitah year, then I wouldn't be able to eat it on Shabbos. But for which problem, for which reason? Meiser. Because it can't be a muksa problem, the Hazmana takes care of the muksa.
Okay. That's where we get it from, the Mishnah.
So, we have a diuk in our Mishnah. What's the diuk in our Mishnah?
Like the other reason why the condition works is for Shvis.
The what works?
As mana.
Hazmana works is because it's...
Yerushalyim is Shvis. But if
And therefore the Hazmana took care of the problem of muksa, and then the problem that might have been remaining doesn't remain because there's no union of meiser in Shvis. But the diuk is clearly there that what?
So for a regular, the mana will only take care of mitzvah, but won't take care of the part of mice. It's still
Right.
chayiv and mice.
So it would have been chayiv meiser. Now the question is, why would it be chayiv and meiser? This is incomplete food.
Yes.
And we know that incomplete food cannot be chayiv and meiser. And it's also on the roof, it's not in the house. It's missing both ingredients.
Yes.
Why would it be chayiv and meiser? What does that mean it's chayiv and meiser? So what are the two options? Either because
Either because of why one of them could be chayiv. If you put it back, right?
Okay, let me focus you on the line in the Gemora, which would show you the two opinions. Okay, that's 5 lines from the bottom. Gemora says,
One time.
Hachinami de aser.
Yes.
It's saying if it would have been, let's go back one more line. Ha, b'shar shenei shavua. And the rest of the years of the 7-year cycle, if it's not Shemitah, hachinami de aser.
Yes.
The food would have been aser, even with the hazmana. My time, what does that mean? How are you reading the lav?
Is it not? Because Shabbos is Kavod.
Right. So that's the opinion of whom? Whose opinion is that? Do you happen to know by chance? No. Whose opinion is it? Do you know? Shabbatai?
Rava.
Well, Rava asked the question.
To Rav Nachman.
And Rav Nachman answered him, but not from our Mishnah. Who says you can see it in our Mishnah? Marzutra prayed to Rav Nachman. The son of Rav Nachman who paskined, he's come to bring his father a proof to what he said. Okay, so that's Marzutra prayed to Rav Nachman, okay? And he's claiming that the reason why in other years other than Shemitah you would not be able to eat this food Because it's something made a kavua for Meiser. What made a kavua for Meiser? Shabbos. Okay?
Yes.
That's his opinion, right? Now somebody answers, "Lo,
It's not.
no, you're wrong. Sorry, Charlie." Because what?
Shani also.
Which means,
It's different over there.
now different would mean that it's not due to Shabbos, it's due to some other factor that makes it different, i.e. makes it Chayiv and
It's
Meiser.
not only Shabbos.
It's not Shabbos at all. He's trying to say it's not Shabbos at all.
While Kaiban the Olam Mikhan Ani Pachalacha, it says in the Mishnah.
Just by the mere fact that he says what?
Here tomorrow, Kaveh Le'aleya.
So that was Kovea for Meiser. What was Kovea for Meiser? Just the
Dibur.
Tibur. That's it, you see? Just because he said he wants to eat it, that made it Chayiv and Meiser. That made it Kovea for Meiser. Right? Now, who made that statement? We're calling him the antagonist. No, someone was arguing with Marzutra. One line before was Marzutra saying it was Shabbos that made it Chayiv and Meiser. He's trying to say it's not Shabbos. No, some other factor. Called Dibur. And then the Gemora says, if it's just the Dibur and I don't really need Shabbos, then Ihachi.
If so, my Yerushalyim, why are you teaching me Shabbos?
Why is it mentioning Shabbos? Why does the Mishnah mention Shabbos if really it's an irrelevant factor? Shabbos is not a relevant factor. Okay, so the Gemara says he wanted to teach me a lesson about Tevel is not Muksa. Okay, fine. Let's not get involved in that. But here we have the two positions which are the main two forces in our Gemora. One saying that in our Mishnah it's clear that if it wouldn't have been Shemitah it would be Chayiv and Meiser. Why? Because of the Shabbos factor. Who says that? Marzutra, Breda Rav Nachman, to support his father. And the antagonist, whoever's arguing with Rav Nachman, Marzutra, Breda Rav Nachman, he's saying no. That's not the reason why in our Mishnah it would have been Chayiv in the rest of the years, but rather because of
People.
Okay. Now, skip forward to the beginning of the next page.
That's how we learn from. It's not only Shabbos, it's also Dibur.
Where do we learn that?
From our Mishnah.
He's saying that is the reason. I mean, it's up for grabs, right? You could say it's because of Shabbos. You could say it's because of the Dibur. Right now we have no proof of who's right. Maybe Marzutra Breda Rav Nachman is right, or maybe the antagonist is right. I have no proof one way or the other right now. Each one has a feasible explanation, a viable explanation. It's not up to me to decide at this point. So now we say what?
Hello.
Hello. No. Let's just take those three words. Hello, Mosra Choser. But is it not true
Left over.
that anything that's left over will be what? Choser. Choser means what? It goes back into the original food. Right? You take out a certain amount of food, you don't use it, it can go back to the original food. Who cares about that? Because we're going to show you that Rabbi Eliezer, when that's true, that the leftovers can go back to the original pile, that makes it Pater and Meiser. Okay?
Yep.
So we're going to try to show that Rabbi Eliezer should not say this makes it Chayiv and Meiser, he should say this makes it Pater and Meiser. And yet our Mishnah says Chayiv and Meiser, if it will be another year. Let's see the Rashi.
Should make it Potter?
Hmm?
Make it Potter and Meiser?
What makes it putter?
The leftovers that goes back to the original food.
It should make it putter. That's right. That's what we're going to try to show. The Rabbi Eliezer holds that way. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's see the Rashi there. Rashi crystallizes the kasha.
Hello, Moser Choseh. It's not the Moser that's left over, right? Hechi Maxis Lamela. We are able to say the Kivlosa Mishum Dibura. The Chiv of Moser because of Dibur. I'm able to say such a thing.
Okay.
Hello, Filu Moter Harder Minateva. Even though they even took a lot from Tevel during the week, was in a follow and to place in front of him.
What does it mean, place in front of him? To eat. Right? That's how you eat. You put food in front of you to eat. So that's like another way of saying you put it in front of him to eat a meal.
The Merci de Kavale Achila.
It looks like
It's
that he made it kavua to eat a lot.
Yes. Double Havur La Haxi Moser.
No, here we're saying, even though you took a lot and it looks like you're koveh, but if it turns out that davar haroy la'achzir moser achar achilaso, if it's a kind of a food that's fit to put back in the original place where you took it from, shenat lo misham, then what would be true? Hashmo'inan Rabbi Eliezer, we heard that Rabbi Eliezer said in that situation where you could put the food back, even though if you took a lot, still.
It's not Kavua with the first taking.
Right. It didn't become kavua. Okay? So he took a huge amount, put it on his plate. If it's the kind of food that can go back to the original container or whatever, it'll be putter for Meiser.
Such as?
Like we're going to see with the zaysim. If you took a lot of the zaysim, then it could be put back in the jar. It's putter for Meiser, according to Rabbi Eliezer. So Rashi makes a kal v'chomer over here. But all the more so, if you had only done a dibur to prepare it for your suda, you hadn't actually taken it and put it on your plate, you just talked about taking it, like mikanani ochel lamachar, right? That's what, when a person stood up over the roof and said he's going to take some of the raisins for the next day, that's a dibur without a mice, right? I want to eat from this tomorrow. He's not doing anything to show that.
Yep.
So if when I actually put it on my plate, that wasn't enough to be kovea for Meiser, because it could go back to the original spot where it came from. Kal v'chomer, Rashi says, if what? If all I did was a dibur to say I want to eat from this tomorrow,
It's not going to fix it.
it's not going to make it kavua. We'll call that like a permanent eating, enough to be chayiv and Meiser.
Why would
Okay.
he put it on his plate and then return it?
What?
Why would he put it on his plate and then return it?
His eyes are bigger than his stomach.
He's not eating anything with it.
Not eating anything where? What? Ooh, what?
He's taking the 10 or let's say the 2.
What?
Put it on his plate
He put a bunch on his plate.
and now he's returning it. It doesn't
Yeah.
say he ate from it, right?
He did it a few,
Well, he ate a few.
probably. Moser. Moser means the leftover.
Oh, so there goes my theory. When I said there's a loss. If there's a loss, if it's reduced, then you've got to take nicer for it.
Not that I understood completely what you were
No,
talking about
so
then,
it's,
but
it's the whole thing here. If you take that from the container and you put it on your plate, and you say you're going to eat this, but then you put it back again and there's no loss, there's no change. Right? You take master, you don't take master. According to this, he takes master. He doesn't take master.
doesn't take Moser.
If he can return it.
if he can return it.
So even if he's eaten some of it, he still has to take.
Right.
And if
Rashi
he's eaten-
actually says later, why did he eat so much if he really wants to put it back? Because he's only going to eat a little bit, that's what Rashi
If
says.
he eats nothing, because here it
It doesn't seem to make a difference. It doesn't really seem to make a difference. Why would it make a difference?
Because there's no loss, there's nothing's changed. It's as if nothing
I
was
don't know
taken.
why you suddenly latched onto this idea of loss.
Because there's been no change.
Why do you feel it makes a difference? Loss, change, whatever.
Okay, it's just.
I'm not sure why that made a difference in your mind to, like, now we're saying in it, if there is a loss, so you get all bent out of shape. I don't see why that was a compelling logic, but okay, let's say there's a bit of a logic to it. So I'm just saying, it just says there's leftover. It doesn't say exactly how much he did or didn't eat, but the point is, and even not to say that he has to put it back, but it could put it back. This is all going on a case where he could put it back. It's ra'ui lachzir. It doesn't say he actually does put it back. But I'm not going to get into that, whether he did or didn't put it back, whether he did or didn't eat. It seems to me like he put it on his plate, and he took a bit, and he wants to put it back. He wants to put the rest back. But whether he does or doesn't put it back, or whether he did or didn't eat, it's still going to be the same halacha, seemingly. It's all based on what he could have done, not necessarily what he did do. Since he could put it back, that makes it not kavua. That makes it temporary. Being on his plate, like Rashi says, it looks like it's kavua. It's kind of like I imagine it's almost like a mini storage house. His plate is like a mini storage house. Just like if I brought it into the house or into the barn or into the chutzner, it's a big step towards making it kavua. And if it's finished product, it makes it kavua. That's like saying now, it's not going to be there anymore in its original place in the wild, let's say, but it's coming into now my domain. I'm going to keep it now forever and ever as my food. That's kavua. Now it's a permanent part of my food supply. Right? That's called kavua. That's called kovea for meiser. So now when he put it on his plate, he kind of did that. Rashi said it's not exactly kavua, but it's Mexican. It looks like kavua. It sounds like a sforim midrabanan. We don't like it because it looks kavua. But either way, we're saying if you could put it back, basically that makes it not kavua. Whether you do or not.
It's very strange.
What?
Because if he takes out 10 of these things and he eats 8 and he puts one back, he doesn't have to take meiser from it.
Because he could have put it back.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Are you going to look at what he's doing now as kavua or not kavua? He's going to say it's not kavua because he could, at any moment, he could put them all back.
So it's more it's more an intent. I can't put it back if I want to.
Seemingly. I mean, Rashi says, Rashi goes out even a little bit farther and says the whole reason why, since it's something that could go back, we assume that his original intention was just to eat a small amount. Rashi has this thing where he keeps mentioning a lot versus a little. That seems to be part of the svora of, if it's a lot, it looks like it's kavua. Kind of like a storage house. That's what gave me the idea. This huge amount on my plate, it looks like I'm now, it's kind of like this is my mini storage house. This is my mini repository. And if it's just a little bit, so that's obviously a snack. A little bit. So Rashi says it's the type of food that could have gone back, but I look at it as if his whole intent was just to eat a little bit when he took it out. That's how Rashi touched up and explained why it makes a difference if you can put it back, then we kind of suppose that you want to put it back. And then Rashi had the question, if you want to put it back, so why'd you take it out in the first place? Why'd you take out so much? Well, you really only had in mind to eat a little bit. For some reason it made him feel better to have a lot on his plate. Maybe it made him more rich or famous, or his friends would be all jealous of him, or just the fact that, like the Gemora says, pas b'salo. If you have something in your pantry, you feel more at ease. put it all on his plate. He felt at ease. He had a lot on his plate. And he puts it back at the end. It's almost like when you set up a table, you put out bread, you put out this, you make it look very full. But at the end of the meal, you put everything back in the, you take all the bread and you put it back in the pantry. You take all the different things that you took out to make it look like a fuller meal, and you put it back. In any event, okay, these are like important things to think about specifically, but I think more important for our sugya to think a little bit more generally what's going on over here.
25 minutes early, but we got
Well, then you have to concentrate as much in 5 minutes as you would in 10 minutes.
no problem.
Alright, so that we saw the beginning of the Kasha in Rashi. Then there's a back and forth about it being a tummy jar or not a tummy jar. If it's tummy, then you can put the stuff back. If it's tahor, you can't put it back because we're dealing with a man who's tumming himself. And at the very end of all of that, we have our kasha on whom? Let's not forget who we're asking our kasha on.
Antagonist.
The antagonist who said what?
This says the Shabbos is only.
Look at Rashi again. We're asking me matzis l'neimar. Could you say?
How could you say that Dibur works?
So we're talking to the antagonist who tried to say that in our Mishnah, that he stood up and he said, I'm going to eat this tomorrow, and it made it chayiv and meiser if it was a regular year. This antagonist was trying to say, you know why? Not because it was Erev Shabbos and he's talking about eating it on Shabbos, but merely because
of the probably that's not kavod.
No. The top line of Rashi says it all. Mi matzis l'meimer. Can you really say, Mr. Antagonist, that it's only because of the dibur that it got to be kavua for Meiser?
Even if you took a lot of bread, it should be kavod.
No,
Just a second. Remember, we are having a tug of war in our Mishnah in Beitsa.
Yes.
He has simukim on the roof, they're not quite finished, and he stands up Erev Shabbos and said he's going to eat it the next day. And we have a diuk that if it would have been a regular year, it would have been chayiv and meiser. Why? So we said, Mar Zutra Breda Rav Nachman says why? Because my love, because it's what?
Isn't that
My love.
is that Mishum Shabbos kavod?
Oh,
Isn't that Shabbos is kavod?
isn't it true that it's because of Shabbos that it makes it kavua in our Mishnah? Because he wants to eat it tomorrow, and he's saying he wants to eat it on Shabbos. And when you said something aside for Shabbos, it gives it the chashivus of Shabbos, and that's what makes it kavua for Meiser, that chashivus. And what does the Mr. Antagonist say?
No.
No, shiny Hassan. No, it's a whole different reason over there. It's really because of what?
Because of Dibur.
Dibur.
Then Rashi also.
And now we're saying, not just Rashi explaining the Gemora. How can you think to say that? Because remember, who's part of our mission, Beitsa? Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer over there in Meiser says, if you could put it back in the jar, then it's not chayiv. Even if you put a whole bunch on your plate. You did a maisa. I took a whole bunch and put it on my plate. Isn't that a nice maisa to say, this is what I want to eat tomorrow? I did a maisa to say, this is what I'm going to eat. And yet, if I could put it back in the jar, it's not yet chayiv and maisa. It's not permanent. It's only temporary. So therefore, it's not chayiv and maisa. So therefore, if it was just a dibur, I didn't even put it on my plate, I just said, I want to eat this tomorrow. Would that make it chayiv? Putting it on my plate doesn't make it chayiv, which is a maisa. Kal v'chomer, if I just said a dibur, I want to eat this tomorrow, that would not make it chayiv and maisa. That's what the Gemora is saying. So, it cannot be like the antagonist says, that just because of the dibur makes it chayiv and maisa. You see, that's not true. Right? To which the antagonist replies, no, like Rashi says, Mishaninan, we answer, meaning the antagonist has an answer for this, that no, Misnisi Nami.
As this in Nami, as this in Rashi, right?
No, we're in the Gemora. Want to read it, Shabbatai?
Yeah, I think I found it.
First words in the line, Misnisi Nami, or Mitniti Nami.
Yes, I found it.
Shabbatai, you have
Yes.
it?
Yes, but missing Nami. So this is...
The antagonist trying to defend himself.
There's a question.
Mm-hmm. What? It's what?
We said yesterday this was a question.
No, Mishanina.
An answer.
He's answering up the kasha that was just a 10-line question was asked against him.
I'm sorry, there's an answer.
Like Rashi said,
The answer.
we're attacking him. How can you say it's a dibur? Even a maisa doesn't work. Kol shekem dibur shouldn't work.
Okay, so in our Mishnah also, the muktzah Torah, the muktzah itself
The
is
base means what? Be means we're talking in a case
of the muktzah,
of where the muksa, the simukim or whatever,
or Torah,
are tahor, and
the Gavra Tameh.
the gavras tameh. And that makes it like the case of the low.
The law of Matzi Hadar, he's unable to return.
He can't return it. And therefore, it's like the case in the Mishnah in Maisros, where we found Rabbi Eliezer saying what? That if you took the zaysim out of a ma'atan, a jar that was tahor, and we're talking about a guy who's tameh, and therefore you can't put it back.
No.
Therefore, Rabbi Eliezer said it was what? Chayiv meiser. So that's what this antagonist is now taking on a slightly different position, but it's to defend his major position that the dibur does make it chayiv, but only when what? You can't put it back. Right? So he's agreeing on one level with what was asked against him. If you really could put it back, he agrees it's putter. He can't argue with that. Do we see that in the Mishnah Maisros? Rabbi Eliezer is saying, if you could put it back, it's putter. So he's saying, but our case in Beitsa is like the other case that Rabbi Eliezer spoke, where you can't put it back. And then dibur is enough. That's what he's saying. So he's adjusting his shita slightly, but he's still remaining with the svara that what? It's the dibur that's making it chayiv and meiser, and not the Shabbos element. All right. You have to wish Sruli a mazel tov.
Anniversary.
He's been married for 3 years.